Last week, hundreds of people gathered outside a Brisbane hospital to show their support for the medical staff inside. Doctors refused to release a 12-month-old asylum seeker being treated for burns unless Australia's government agreed not to send the baby and her mother back to an offshore detention centre. After a more than week-long standoff, the pair was allowed to remain in Australia.
I think this has been a victory against the government's efforts to return people to Nauru and Manus Island.
The move was a break from what's known as one of the toughest border protection policies in the world. Asylum seekers headed for Australia are turned back or held in offshore detention centres on Nauru and Manus Island.
The costs to individuals locked up in detention are profound, they're life-changing, and for a significant number of people they are lifelong impacts in terms of people's mental health and physical health.
The United Nations has openly criticised Australia's policy. And lately, opposition has been growing at home, fueled by a High Court ruling earlier this month which rejected a challenge to the government's offshore detention policy.
A sizable and growing portion of their supporter base is uncomfortable with the idea of sending children back to Nauru.
That's not good news for a government which has recently seen some of its support erode while gearing up for a possible election later this year. Neighbouring New Zealand has offered to resettle some of Australia's asylum seekers, but the immigration minister here shot that idea down, saying to do so would in effect offer a back door to Australia's policy. The immigration minister also said the little girl and her mother will eventually be sent back to Nauru.
And I also think it's an important message to send to those people with children who are living on Nauru at the moment, that there is a continuation of the government's policy.
Experts say that means it's very unlikely the other 267 asylum seekers currently receiving medical attention in Australia will get to stay in Australia. Greg Navarro, CCTV, Sydney.